How's it going, everybody? My name's Warner Fields with Fields of Profit. Today, I'm here with my friend and student Brett, who's actually crushing it on Amazon. We're going to kind of get into his story about how he's been growing on Amazon. But if you just want to kind of briefly introduce yourself, Brett, maybe let them know how you got into Amazon and where you're looking sales-wise right now. We can just kind of roll from there.
Sure. I'm Brett Daniel. I currently work at a Fortune 500 company in my 9 to 5 and started a side hustle working on Amazon for the last 2 years. We've been able to scale our business to about 80,000 a month, looking to hit 80,000 again this month. Year to date, we're at 311,000. So we're doing pretty well. How I got started was during COVID when everybody was at home and on lockdown. I just started studying how to make money online and found some classes, got into some communities, and it's been hitting ever since. So pretty excited about where we're at and where we're going.
That's awesome. Yeah. A lot of people I talked to got started in COVID, all that kind of stuff. Built a lot of businesses, I guess. A lot of free time we kind of uncovered, right?
A lot of free time.
Yeah. Yeah. So kind of maybe if you want to break down your business model as well, a lot of people, this might be their first kind of Amazon video. I know you're doing online arbitrage. Is that all you're doing, or kind of what else are you working on?
Yeah, we started it in RA with grocery. And then when grocery prices went up during COVID, kind of abandoned that and switched over to 100% OA. And here recently, this past year, we started breaking into wholesale. So that's kind of where we're at right now. We're probably 95% OA, 5% wholesale, and we're looking to grow the wholesale to hopefully by about 50% by the end of this year.
Awesome. Yeah. We're a very similar goal right along with you. That OA stuff's going nice. Might as well add some wholesale along. If you guys are super uninitiated, OA, online arbitrage, basically just like buying stuff from Walmart.com, Target.com, flipping it on Amazon instead of like going into stores and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So kind of, going back to like the beginning of your journey, it's early COVID, right? Do you remember like how you found that first item? Do you remember what it was?
I do. I actually still have it in my catalog.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I started doing some thrifting. So I went to, we have a lot of Goodwill locations here in our city. And so I just started going around and flipping stuff on eBay, but found some used items that I could sell on Amazon. And it was a pull timer. It was brand new, still in the box. I bought it for $5, flipped it for 70 and never looked back since.
That's awesome. Yeah. A lot of fun, like thrift store flips. I kind of missed that back in the day. Like obviously it's not scalable and all that kind of stuff, but those of you guys watching, like there's so much gem hiding out at the thrift stores. Like I found like a photo scanner when I was just like getting started. I was $450. We sold it for like $400. Like it was like scanning negatives and stuff. Like that type of stuff's awesome.
You have to fight the gray hairs in the thrift store.
That's right. Yeah. Definitely a different crowd than a lot of arbitrage guys for sure.
That's right.
Yeah. So you're going from, retail arbitrage, scanning stuff in stores, doing thrifting. You talked about how like, grocery prices going up kind of kicked you into doing online. Like, was there anything else that like went into that transition process for you? Like, was there anything that stuck out about online arbitrage that was better than a lot of other businesses?
Yeah, I think for RA, it took a lot of time going in the stores and shopping. So we'd create a list, we'd go knock it out and then prep it and send it in. So we were only spending like about $300 a day. So we weren't really making the scale that we would like. But with OA, I work from home. I can order as much as I can during the day. We expanded our team to be able to scale that a little more. So that's kind of what the driving, moving from RA to OA was just kind of the time it required to go into stores.
That's awesome. Do you remember how much you were doing in sales when you switched? Spending $300 a day can't be doing too crazy.
Yeah, I mean, we're hitting like 10K a month and then 15 and 20. And I think we kind of maxed out with RA at about 20.
Yeah. That checks out. That's still 20K in RA is a lot more than most people. Like if you're willing to put in the hustle to make 20K in RA, like you can make it in most business models. Like that's elbow grease there.
Yeah, me and my brother, he works with me and we were running through Walmart, piling up stuff in buggies and buying as much as we could every time we went. So it was fun, but it's exhausting.
Yeah. It's a good way to like learn the basics though. Like I did it like transitioning period, like I remember there was like a cool like summer Lego clearance and I went like all the Walmarts in like a 50-mile radius and we like cleared them out, filled up my old car. It's a fun time, but not necessarily going to build you a multi-million-dollar business there. Yeah. So, early on, like you're finding those RA flips, starting to get into OA. And that's probably where a lot of people watching this video are at right now. They're trying to, break into finding that first product. Do you remember when, things started clicking? Like, early on, it's going to take a long time, 1-2 months in, when did things start making sense? It's like, oh, here's how, I'm finding this product here. It's just kind of natural progression.
Yeah, I think it's when we started researching online and started finding deals and sales and being able to apply coupons and get cash back, it just started clicking that, hey, we can make some money doing this. But we were still constrained we were shipping stuff to my house. We had one wholesale account that was shipping stuff to my house. So we're splitting our time between sourcing and prepping. So that became a constraint. So we had to move to a prep center. But that's when it started clicking. When we said we have to move work off of us in order to scale, that's when we knew that we could make some money at this.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's like a whole other reason why you want to do, the whole online approach is do it from anywhere, working with prep centers. Did you have to go through a few different prep centers to find like the one you work with now?
Yes, I have a mom and pop that I really do like, but I ventured out to an Oregon prep center because of the tax implications. I've since moved to a prep center in New Hampshire, so we're going to narrow it down to 2. But yeah, we've kind of vetted a few of them, but the 2 we have now, we're very happy with.
For sure, yeah. How were you finding those prep centers? Like, I know that's probably something a lot of people watching this are getting into. How did you find it? How did you test it to know it was going to be a good prep center?
So being in the communities, so be active in the Facebook communities around selling on Amazon. That's how I found both of them, the ones that we have now. Both were contributing in 2 different groups. And so I got to see these folks firsthand offering feedback to new sellers, spoke with them on the phone about kind of their operations and how they approach things, and then started sending test buys in, and then eventually just went as much as I can send them. That's what I'm doing.
That's awesome. Yeah, yeah. Typically, I like to send like 100 units or something. So if you guys are getting that prep center, like send them a decent amount. Like see, like from the day it checks in, from the day it gets shipped out, see how long that is. You'll get a really good idea to know if it's kind of a good prep center to work with. Yeah, but once we switched to prep centers, I wished we had done it so much sooner. Like it's the life changer once you don't have to see anything. Yeah, that's awesome. So being able to sell $80,000 a month right now, that's awesome. Probably one of the major questions people are going to be wondering is how much time are you devoting to the business for that to happen?
That's a good question. So I'm averaging about 30 to 35 hours a week. So I have a 9 to 5 job. So at 6 p.m. we start our Amazon work till 10 o'clock at night, and then working Saturdays and Sundays. Have my brother working with me. He's helping drive some of the wholesale. He has a strong background in vendor relationships. And then we've also scaled with VAs and stuff like that. So it's almost a second full-time job. It does require work.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome. Like it's putting in the elbow grease, like we're talking about. Like just want to be fully transparent with you guys watching. Like this is not going to be the passive business you see. Like I think we were even talking about that. Like it's not passive. Like you got to put in that time, got to put in the effort. But it's super worth it, as you can kind of clearly see talking to Brett, talking to all the other people we kind of interviewed on the channel. Like definitely works if you kind of put in the elbow grease. Yeah. So going from early days, spending $80,000 a month on product now, obviously there's a big learning curve in terms of sourcing products. What are like the ways you're sourcing products right now?
So today we have 3 different areas where how we're sourcing products. We leverage lead lists. There's plus and minuses to using lead lists. You have to be careful with those. We have sourcing VAs. So we have 3 sourcing VAs that are sending us leads every day, and then we manually source. And what we found is that manual sourcing is a lot more profitable. We experience about, an 18% loss rate. We look at all our channels of sourcing. We measure those each month, but we see that manual sourcing, which requires a lot more time, is a lot more profitable than lead lists and VAs. But we use those 3 in order to kind of scale as quickly as we can.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and do you want to maybe talk a little bit more about like that loss rate you're talking about? Like I think that's super interesting. I haven't heard a lot of people talk about that.
Yeah, we measure each month the kind of the loss that we've had when it comes to the items that we're sending in, and we're looking at how many items did we have to lower our price in order to sell it and actually took a loss. And so right now we average about an 18% loss each month, and we measure that by each of the sourcing channels that we leverage. And so we try to stay under 20. That's our goal, is to be under 20%, but that allows us to kind of have some predictability with the items that we're buying, as long as we keep measuring that each month.
Yeah, I like that. That's a super cool metric. It's also a good way to like some items you buy, there's going to be completely out of your control that you lose money on it. Like the buy box goes away, the listing completely changes. Like it's just going to be out of your control. So I like thinking about it in like a percentage basis. So it's like, it's okay. It's part of my 20% or whatever, instead of like, oh, that one product went wrong. Like it's all burn the whole business down. Like,
yeah,
it's a good mindset. Like keep you on track. I really like that. Yeah. And another thing you kind of touched on there is using like leads lists. When do you think a seller should use a leads list or shouldn't use one?
Well, I really think you need to learn how to source yourself before you actually use a lead list. It's a good way to augment your current sourcing strategies. I wouldn't rely on them 100%. I've seen some that are not that great. The ones that we use now have been pretty good. They cost a little more because you have less subscribers on those lead lists. So there is an advantage to that. But not only just the lead list, but also introducing you to new sites to source, new coupons to use. So there's a lot of advantages to actually using a lead list. But you do need to be careful and mindful that, there are other people that are getting that same list. And so you have to act fast. One of the things that we leverage them for is 6 months from now, we'll run the leads that we got 6 months ago and see how well they've done. And then also whether they're available for repurchase as a replan. So we just build an inventory of old leads and just constantly run those every week.
Yeah, building up that database over time is super valuable. And like a lot of beginners who are also on that list with you will like forget about it over time. Like, they're going to buy it the first time. They're not going to be good at keeping their systems together, but kind of being the more experienced seller, you can go in and make profit when, previously that item might have tanked with, the number of sellers on the list or something. That's awesome. Yeah. And another thing you were touching on there is you've been leveraging a little bit of like virtual assistants and stuff. Like what does your like current company structure look like?
Sure. So like I mentioned earlier, my brother's helping me, drive some of the wholesale side of it. So he has a VA that's working with him on the wholesale side. And then I have 3 sourcing VAs that are sourcing for me, 100% of their workday. It's gone well so so far. We get a lot of leads from them. We do purchase the majority of them. We vet them a second time so that we're making sure that we're buying the right leads. And then recently, I just had my middle daughter start buying for me.
There you
So
go. Yep.
she's a stay-at-home mom, so she has, a couple hours a day that she can devote to it. And then after the kids go to bed, she's online buying. I pretty much made it easy. I'm just giving her stuff, go buy this. And so the next stage is evaluate the deal, then buy it. And so I'm going to slowly pull her into the company and make her my permanent buyer.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm a big fan of, keeping the money in the family, all that kind of
Yep.
stuff. Like I've hired some family too. It's good. Like I know some people tell horror stories, but you can already trust them, and especially when it's a buyer, like they're gonna have your credit card. You're probably not gonna run away with the credit card numbers.
Not too far.
Yeah, maybe a little bit, but that's awesome. So when do you think, as a newer seller, like when should a seller get a VA? Did you get yours too early, too late?
I think I got the first one a little too early. So, if you're not able to source and buy products yourself and evaluate deals and be confident in your decision making, then a VA is just going to make it worse because they're just going to load you up with other things you need to review. And if you're not making good decisions with your own manual sourcing, you're not going to make good decisions with a VA. And then they need feedback as well. So if you're not able to lead them and coach them, it's going to be a problem for you. So my advice would be once you master sourcing and then you run out of time to source, or you need to move on to other things like wholesale or other things within your business, then that's the time you can start leveraging a virtual assistant.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like a lot of people jump the gun, like, oh, I don't know how to source. Let me just hire someone to do it for me. Like they don't know how to source as well as you would 2 weeks
That's
from
right.
line. So build the skills first. Yeah. So another thing that I like to ask pretty much everyone who comes on here, like, was there in your journey like a light bulb moment where it's like, oh wow, this can be a serious, significant source of income, maybe a really good product, anything like that?
Yeah, early on, we bought a product from Sam's, and I actually scanned it while we were in the store just to see if it would sell. And I was surprised that, how much profit was on it. And so we sold a few and they sold very quickly. So we went back and I bought all they had. They had 40 units on the shelf. So I bought them all. I listed them from the store. I sold half of them on the way home and then the other half an hour after I got home. So that day I'd sold about $1,000 worth of this product just within 2 hours. And I was like, this is nuts. I can't
Yeah.
believe that something would sell that fast. And it did. And so I bought every time they put it on the shelf, I bought it out and I ordered as many as they would send me until it tanked. So we had about a 4-month run on that product until everybody else got on it and tanked it. And it's still tanked today. So, but
Sure.
it did well. It did well for us.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you remember like how much you made in profit about on that product?
We were averaging every time we would buy it, we'd make about $500. So
Oh,
every day that we were able to get it, we would profit about $500.
that's sick. Yeah, and you're talking about kind of how it, after a few months, it kind of went to the wayside, no longer profitable. Like that's something about arbitrage that is part of the market, right? So some of you guys watching this video, you'll see like, oh, my prices are tanking, that kind of stuff. Like arbitrage is a game of being the first to the inefficiency, right?
That's right.
And you were the first to the inefficiency there, so you got to make money for a few months, and then the other people were late to the party. So for those of you guys watching this video, if you're running into price tanking, that kind of stuff, like figure out ways you can be early to the punch, right? Like you're leveraging the right codes, showing up in store, picking it up on the shelves like Brett's doing there. Like those are all ways to be the first to the punch on these inefficiencies. Yeah, so you were doing, the RA picking stuff up in store. Maybe that follows along in this next question, but was there anything along the journey where you're going from 10, 20K all the way up to 80K where you had to like forget about something, you had to stop doing something to allow you to scale further?
Yeah, I started to need help in other areas like bookkeeping was an area that I had to outsource. Adding another VA in order to scale was something we had to do. So it was kind of like trying to get things off my plate that I was doing so that I could source and manage the team more effectively in order to scale.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what's your goal? Like as you're freeing up all this time, like what specifically is the highest value thing in your business that you've been doing?
Well, right now, sourcing has been
Yeah.
the highest value that I've been doing, but we're trying to transition to wholesale. So as we start migrating to more and more into wholesale, it'll shift from focusing on sourcing to now building relationships and being able to leverage those relationships in order to get, deeper discounts, buying, larger quantities of products in order to continue to scale.
Yeah, that's awesome. That was like literally exactly what I've been doing all morning is like working on wholesale suppliers, meeting with our wholesale team, like kind of guiding them that way. Like that's cool. So you'll be there in probably a month or two, honestly. We'll be doing the same exact thing. That's sick. Yeah. So was there anything in the beginning of your like Amazon journey that significantly held you back? Would you change anything from what you did early on?
Yeah, I think with RA, so we would go out and we would buy in the evenings and then we'd come back to my house and we would prep, pack it, and ship it in the same day. And it just didn't scale well. We were just running into, we couldn't grow. So in order to grow further, we had to find an option for prep and shipping. And that was, leveraging a prep center. So that was something early on that we did. We started small with a small mom and pop, and then we kind of expanded from there.
Cool. Yeah. So maybe leaving the business model where you're not going to be able to scale a little bit sooner. Is that kind of the thing you learned?
Yeah, I mean, some things you guys got to let go. I mean, it's hard to let go, but sometimes you have to let go in order to grow.
Yeah, absolutely. I got stuck doing used books for way too long, I guess 5 years ago. So at this point, like running around from store to store, I knew no one else. That was also part of the problem is there wasn't a lot of like the community that we have today. So I was kind of had the blinders on, was just sourcing books. Like I could have made way more money if we just kind of thought about doing online stuff a little bit sooner. Yeah. And as you've been selling on Amazon for, I guess close to 3 years now. If you started in, early COVID, then what changes have you seen on Amazon since then?
Well, it seems like we have a lot more new sellers coming in. Notice a lot more offerings around training and, people on social media offering advice and feedback on how to get started with Amazon. In addition, we've seen more, I guess, products take control of their listings, people off, especially in the makeup category. So that's kind of some of the changes that we've seen so far. Also, we've seen, some changes with Amazon themselves with, increasing fees, storage limits, things like that have kind of thrown curveballs our way.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. There's always going to be those curveballs to adapt to, all that kind of stuff. But
Right.
on like the plus side of that, so we don't get all down here, like something that, I even kind of touched on, like the community is so much more fun than it used to be. Like, a few years ago, like trying to get ungated when I was starting on Amazon, like, it was like hidden knowledge. Like no one could figure that out. But those of you guys watching the video today, like there's so much more information for you guys to take advantage of. Like, and it's a good thing, right? So if you put the hours in, you're going to be able to get over that hump of new sellers and, increasing fees, all that kind of stuff. It's just, being adaptable.
Yeah, definitely get involved in the community. That has been one of the ways that we've been able to grow our business is getting involved with other sellers.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the biggest thing that grew my business. Most people we talk to here, like talking to other sellers, sharing what you're doing, having them, reciprocate that. Like that's just super valuable. Hop in like the free Discord down below, like all that kind of stuff. Facebook groups, like Brett's mentioned, there's so many resources out there for you guys. Yeah. So obviously I appreciate you hopping on the channel here, spending some time. I'll flip it on you. Is there anything that's like holding your business back right now? Is there any questions you have for me that I can kind of answer while I got you?
I think right now what's holding me back is my time. So my current job, which is important, but
Yeah.
I think that's one area where that's holding me back today. I think we're doing pretty good on sourcing. We're starting to move the needle on wholesale, so feel pretty good about that. But I guess one thing that I'll ask you is, what was one of the obstacles you had to overcome to grow your business?
Yeah, like you're running into like now, it's like time for sure. As soon as you get to like the 6-figure a month mark, and then once I got there, it's just a matter of onboarding a new employee, making sure they're trained up and spending the right amount of money for us, and then add on another one. And then it's like, oh, I've got 4 product sourcers. You're about there right now. You're getting to the point where it's like, oh, I need more time to buy. So you hired the daughter, right? And then next it'll be like, oh, I'm spending too much time ungating and doing stranded and all that kind of stuff. So then did you say you had an admin VA?
I do not.
Okay, yeah, so that's probably next for you, right? Like as I'm saying, it's like, yeah, I am kind of spending a lot of time like doing stranded and moving things on spreadsheets and that kind of stuff. So to me, it's always like if I ever get stuck in my business, like I can't grow, like I'll just literally write out everything that I'm doing, and then I'll just start circling things that I don't need to be doing personally. So 6 months ago, it was like, oh, I don't need to be submitting ungate requests, and I don't need to be like reviewing all of the team's leads. So I start circling those things and figuring out how to train that out. So that might be a cool exercise for you. Just like write out literally everything you're doing and figure out which of those things doesn't need your specific input. You probably find a lot of stuff you can do.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. So moving forward into the future, you mentioned you had the job. What's your vision long term for your business? You want to go full time? You want to go into wholesale, private label? Like what's 2 to 3 years look like for you?
So my goal is to move into full time. So I'm eligible for early retirement. I'm still a little too young to leave employment right now, but in the next couple of years, I do plan to retire from my current job and actually work on Amazon full time. So I think we'll be able to dedicate a lot more time in the coming years to grow it even larger than what we have today.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's a good like gig, post retirement. Like you can put in a great 4 or 5 hours of work, but you don't want to do the 40-hour work weeks anymore. Like it's a great business model for that kind of stuff. Like getting into college, it was perfect for me because I could just spend 2 or 3 hours a day. Like very flexible, can fit pretty much any lifestyle. Yeah. So just to kind of wrap us up here, if you are that guy or girl, you're watching this video, you've got $1,000 in sales, you got $0 in sales. What should they go do today to go take action and get serious about Amazon?
Yeah, I think the first thing is really kind of learning how Amazon operates. So get into Keepa, learn how to read charts, learn how to identify which products are going to sell and which ones are more than likely not going to sell based on the data. So get involved with the data. So let data drive some of your decisions is the top thing that I would do. Also, I would, get involved with, like I said earlier, with the communities. If you're not finding products, there are people out here to help you. I mean, you just get involved in Facebook groups, Discord. There are resources out there to help you grow your business.
For sure. Yeah. Go out there, make networking connections. Like that's the biggest thing that I think is going to help a lot of new sellers hop into the space. Yeah. So I really appreciate you hopping on, Brett, sharing honestly some really cool gems in this video. I'm sure people are going to love it. Let us know down below any questions, comments, anything like that you guys might have. Always happy to answer those. Also, feel free to hit that subscribe button if we did add value to your business, maybe add a little bit of that back to my business here. And yeah, really appreciate you guys watching this video, and I will see you next time.